The creative process at times can feel overwhelming. I used to create whenever the mood struck. Some weeks I'd be on fire and other weeks, nothing. I told myself that's just how creativity works. It has its ebbs and flows. But the flows kept getting shorter, and I started wondering if I was losing something. I heard somewhere by someone that the common person waits around until they feel inspired, while the pros get to work. The more I thought about it, the more it made sense to me. It was time to challenge myself, implement new routines that would benefit my creativity. For me, the morning is when I feel most fresh. That's when my mind is clearest before the noise of the day. I like to fuel my body correctly and get outside. That's why I've teamed up with Anthropic, the team behind Claude. I'm more creative when I'm more healthy. I've been tracking this idea with Claude, writing out how I physically feel versus how creative I feel. After a few weeks, it started pointing out patterns that I had missed.
So you mentioned feeling clear after running 3 times this week. What shifts in your mind when you move?
That question made me realize the days I felt most present, most clear, most creative, I was either running or doing breath work. Each one does something unique. It quiets the mind. I never actually thought creativity would be my full-time job. To be honest, I don't really view myself as a creative. I like making things, being messy, and putting the puzzle pieces together. And if I'm being very honest, in a lot of ways, the idea of making stuff has started to tire me out. It kind of feels like I'm trying to find what works and what people will like. Recently, I've been using Claude as a journal, writing out everything about my creativity, what I'm going through, and it helps me think through the mess. The other day, it asked me something that stuck. When was the last time you created something for yourself? You know, I actually have been doing pottery for a really long time, actually before I started YouTube. Now, when I look at this, I see a lot of flaws to it. I see that it probably won't work the way it should work. But at the end of the day, it's not for anyone else, but for the expression of making something. And when Claude asked that question of when was the last time you created for yourself, it brought me back to this moment when I used to create for myself. And I think creativity genuinely has gotten to a point where when you make something, you're always thinking about, will it perform? How will other people digest it? Will it work? Will it be good? Will people like it? And I think it is such a beautiful thing to ask yourself, when was the last time you created for yourself? For me, the goal of creativity is to continue to stretch the mind, to keep thinking, keep being inspired, find new ways to solve old problems. One of the biggest components to my creative routine is writing. Writing often, writing a lot, writing even when it doesn't make sense. I allow Claude to think with me. I'll write something vague, something half-formed. I'll allow it to be messy. And suddenly, I'm not just writing to write. I'm trying to uncover something that will inspire, something that will hit an emotion. It's less about producing polished thoughts and more about discovering what I'm thinking in the first place. The mess is the point. The not making sense is where the good stuff lives. I find that the most compelling stories are the ones we're afraid to share. And often, the ones we're afraid to share are the stories we're not sure how to share. Having Claude help me through the mess allows me to find the signal in the noise, the one clear thought buried beneath everything else. One of the best things that I've done for my creativity is to allow myself to write often, to write a lot, and to write really messy and just allow my brain to have the capacity to just dump. Now, Claude is sponsoring this video, but I have to be honest, I was insanely blown away by how many times I would put in just my script and then Claude would just simply ask me a simple question of like, what's your intention of this story? And then hearing that, it kind of expanded my mind to like, man, am I actually getting my original intention through with this script? And I think the most beautiful thing we can do as storytellers, as creatives, is to share authentic stories to inspire people, which is hopefully what I'm doing. But sometimes I'm starting to realize that it's really powerful to have something to help you think through the process and the story that you're trying to create. And ultimately asking you deeper questions like, what is the purpose? When did you first feel that? How has that changed your life? And I think it's just really powerful when you can get as deep as possible and then share that story as authentically as you can, because I genuinely think it will inspire people. And ultimately, that's what this channel is built on, is sharing these really honest stories, breaking the fourth wall, breaking down like, this is genuinely how I feel. It's hard, it's a struggle, and this is what I'm going through, and this is how I've made it through. And I think a lot of people can relate to that authenticity. So just having this routine of writing a lot and writing really honestly has genuinely changed my creative outlook, and I hope it does with you. And finally, the most exciting routine of them all. Deadlines. In a world with constant stimulation, new trends, new happenings, it's important to remain grounded. Every creative endeavor has a lesson to be learned. Most times, I focus too much on the end product, the outcomes, the things I usually can't control. But looking back, I see every time I finish a project, there's way more to it than the final product. I find myself learning more about lighting, writing, myself, and a dozen other things along the way. Creativity is a process with ourselves, and deadlines keep us on track. I know deadlines don't seem like the most glamorous routine of them all, but they work. Often looking at a project, we can see 1,000 things we should change. But why? These small mistakes, these little details, are a museum of our progress, and that's what creativity is. I used to take months on one project, getting stuck every few days because I wanted it to be perfect. Since implementing these hard deadlines, I find that my creativity works better. Perfection is the enemy of progress. When I find myself stuck, I'm forced to problem solve, to find new ways to tell old stories. I know deadlines don't seem fun, but they've changed my creative process more than anything else. I don't know the science behind it all, but I know for me, it works, and it's opened up a new creative realm. Guys, thank you so much for watching. This video was really fun to make, and I genuinely used all three of those routines in the making of this process, and mainly the deadline one. Now, if I'm being honest, creativity has been a bit of a struggle for me recently. It's been hard to show up and to stay consistent. I don't know, take a step back and think like, man, my creativity has been so like, how can I get this video out as soon as possible? And being asked those questions kind of made me like stop in my tracks and think like, wait a minute. The goal here is to be creative, to expand my thinking, and to keep making things that I like. And so being able to use Claude in that capacity as I was writing my script was really amazing. I feel like I learned a few things. One, it's okay to slow down. Two, it's okay to have deadlines. And three, it's okay to make something for yourself from time to time. So guys, definitely check out Claude. It's linked in the description below. If you've made it this far, leave a comment, let me know you're a part of the 20%. And I would love to hear what you're learning in your creative process. And I'll see you all in the next one.